Hey guys, it's December 3rd, 2021. I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and today I have lots of quilting progress updates. I have some information on 2 free quilt-alongs that will be coming up. I have some fabric and notions to show you that are on sale, and then I'm going to show you some what's new items. So we're going to kind of start with there's going to be 3 quilt-alongs that I have finished. So we're going to start with Sampler Spree, and I'm gonna show you all my blocks. We're gonna have fun with the seam ripper today. We're gonna fix something because if you can see right under my hand, there's a mistake. But first, what I wanted to do was talk about kind of what this sew along was, what I turned it into, and how I'm finishing it. So Susan Aki, this is a book that's published by Martingale, and the book has 106 blocks with 6-inch finished blocks and 1 setting. So if you go to the beginning, this is the setting, and the setting has 2 different sashings. And yesterday I was sewing, and actually, I don't need these on here. I'm wrong. Okay. I don't know why I put those on there. Okay, so I was actually sewing, and there are 106 blocks in the book, but there's 100 in this setting. So there are 20 per row. So 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. And yesterday I was sewing and I had 81 blocks, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to kill myself. My daughter's trying out for drill team this week. My boys have like 4 or 5 basketball games this week. Let's be realistic with my life and let's just get this quilt done. And I had done the blocks that I liked the best anyway. So I stopped at 81, which is good because one of my blocks had all kinds of like brown spots all over it. I have no idea how that happened or why that happened. So it ended up being perfect. So what I decided to do was this last row, I'm not going to do this last row. And the book does not have, well, it does have this, but I think that it's hard to follow if I'm going to be putting the rows together. So because of the way it's done. So what I'm going to do is just follow this. And I did not put my blocks together exactly like this, but I'm going to show you kind of my thought process and what I was doing and how I thought through everything. So if you go to my first pop-up, this was yesterday, and what I did, now the coloring is way off, so just ignore that. That's my camera. But what I did is I laid out blocks 1 through 10 all the way down to the last row. And I just laid them out just like that because if you look in the book right here, she does 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 12 through, or 21 through 31, etc., etc. So that would kind of help me already have kind of a spot. So that was my first part, was just to throw them on the ground. I don't have a design board, so I used my floor. So then the second photo was after a couple of hours. So all of this, from the photo you saw, just the last photo, everything was done in about 6 hours, because before that I had sewn 3 blocks. So yesterday morning I sewed 3 blocks, and then all of this is the rest of the day. So you can see on the right, I kind of have my little blocks that I put together, and then on the left, I just have them kind of started together, and then you see a pile of stuff in the middle. But that's kind of what I do. And when I was putting the little blocks together that you're about to see, I would do 2 at a time so I didn't get them mixed up. And then the next photo is last night when I had all the blocks done and I just threw them on the ground. And what I like to do is put them on the ground and walk away. So I did, and a couple of hours later, I noticed, with the help of a friend, well, I noticed these 2. They're too similar, so that those 2 blocks are going to have to move because having gray and pink right next to each other will probably clash. And it's right in the middle of the quilt, so you're going to be able to see it. And then the next photo, Lori helped me because I was asking Lori to show me if any colors popped out. So she showed me that those three all kind of, your eye goes there. So those will have to be moved. But if you go back to the 2 photos past, I can start by laying out there when I get home today, but then move those 2 blocks. And then I will take a photo of it, let my eyes rest for about an hour or 2, walk away from it, come back, see if anything else sticks out. But at 9 o'clock at night, when I was picking Emma up from drill team, Lori wrote back and said, you have a mistake. So I'm going to show you the mistake. And it's right there. And I made this block yesterday morning. Now, obviously, this does not look good, and it probably should have come in here. I don't know if I did it wrong. I have no idea if I did the block, the little unit wrong, but whatever it is, what it is. So these 2 were done recently. These were 2 of the last ones that I did. But this, obviously, the green should be here. Yeah, this green should be here. So I'm actually going to show you how to take a mistake like that out and what I do. And it's going to take quite a bit of time. But I thought, you know what? I was really late at night. I was too tired to fix it. And I thought I could show you on camera how to fix it. So I'm going to show you now all my blocks, and I'm going to talk about the sashing in the background. So I decided the background that I used in the block, to use that as my sashing between the blocks. And then there's in the sashing, there's 2 fabrics. And here they did one background, which would be like this, but then they added like a yellow. So where my text is, that's going to be my yellow. And the reason I decided to go with this instead of a dark fabric was it's really a busy quilt, and I felt like if I put pink here or blue or brown, it was going to really stick out. So I decided to just go with light fabrics, and I was actually inspired by the Sherry McConnell 2021 quilt that I just finished that I'm going to show you. I really like how that came out, so I thought that doing that would be very, very nice. I only had enough to sash 1 block. And of course, I was telling Lori, of course it's got to be the one that has the mistake in it, because now I can't just fix right here. I got to fix all of right here. So I kind of think that's funny. But I'm going to kind of flip through all my blocks. If y'all have any questions on it, let me know. And when I assemble this, I'll have it to where I can show you next week. But when I assemble it, I'm going to do row by row. So I'll do 1 row, stop, 1 row, stop, 1 row, stop. Then I'll put 2 rows together, and I'll probably put the top 2 and the bottom 2. And then I'll probably attach those together, and then all together. And what's beautiful about this quilt is there's not an outer border. So once you have your rows done, you don't have to worry about the outer border. And I did have a question about the spiral bound, and I did get that done. I took it to like an Office Depot. It's like 10 bucks or something. So there's that. And I'm going to show all my blocks and kind of talk through what I did. Now, Susan Aki had a sew along or quilt along this summer, and she had a little layout, and it said, you know, make these blocks this week, make these blocks this week. And it was very much overwhelming. So I got a lot done and then kind of stopped. And my goal for 2021 is I'm going to finish everything I have that is started, or I'm going to give it away. So I finished 3 quilts this week, and that's, well, this one's not finished. So I guess I technically finished 2 in the last 2 weeks. I guess the last 2 weeks, but it feels good to like wrap up some projects and open up some. I have some little drawers in my sewing room, and once they're full, I can't add anything. So now I have lots of room. So I'm going to come back to this and finish this, but this is 1 block. And so I made a total of 20 of these. So I'll just show them to you. If y'all see any mistakes, put a comment in the box so I can fix them. And then I'll talk about my binding choice and my backing choice. And this one I kind of struggled with. Now, when I laid all my blocks out in that very first photo, you're gonna see when you look at it, there are a lot of blues. It's hard to see there, but I noticed I sewed with so many blocks with blues. So if you go back to this block, this one does have a lot of blue because I kind of had to. And then these two also. So these two were the last ones I did. Right here, I put a bee cross stitch fabric, and it was I have a half yard of all of that at home, so I decided to go with a dark one because I thought it matched my background. I thought it would go well with the two sashings, and I already had it. I'm gonna put these here so I can stack them neat. But yeah, if y'all see any mistakes, let me know. And after I got all four together, what I would do is I would trim it up. So I don't have any excess threads here, but when you look at the back, I mean, there is, like you'll see, there's a little bit of extra thread. I don't clip all of that. I just kind of trim around the outside. And I'm not even sure which way I'm gonna lay this one. Like this one can be rotated. This one can't because it's a sailboat. So this one obviously has to go this way. But on blocks like this, if I have too much blue together, I can just rotate and try to make it work that way. And I really had a lot of fun making these. This one was, I remember this one was pretty hard. I think this one's pretty cute. But I am glad that I did notice that these two probably shouldn't have been next to each other because they're both single colored, but I noticed that after I got them together. And I did this one yesterday. This one was not as hard as I thought, but I did have to redo it a couple of times. So, and I pressed all my blocks open, but then when I went to put my sashing on, I pressed towards the light. So my goal is to, when I get home, this is my favorite block out of the whole thing. These two are my favorite. I am going to starch the sashing fabric that I bought, and I'm gonna get this sewn together by tomorrow at noon is my goal. So I hope you enjoy looking at my beautiful blocks. The fabric that I used is Stitch by Lori Holt, and I used it because it has so many colors, and with a book like this, you really need a lot of colors. And when Susan made hers is scrappy. So she mixed like designers, collections, manufacturers. She just used her stash. And I wanted to make it out of just one collection. So I picked Stitch because it has so many color possibilities. And if I had finalized my rows, I would have put alphabets with like the number 1, the number 2, the number 3 on it. But because it was really late and I decided I want to move around some blocks, so I wasn't going to go through all that trouble since I am going to move blocks. So Kathy is asking, what is my trick for getting my points so straight and keeping them straight? So I would say, like on something like this, I use our Flying Geese paper. For something like this, I use Triangles on a Roll foundation paper. Triangles on a Roll. I do, with little blocks like this, I've been using the Seam-A-Line glue and putting the little corners, putting these on there, and I've been getting really good results with this, and I've been using it with all of my smaller pieces, not necessarily bigger pieces. It works better for small pieces. So that kind of helps. Let me think of what else. This one was really fun. This one, what I did is I made my own foundation paper. And I took some of my big pads of foundation paper that I have and drew my own block on the other side, and then sewed it, pulled my paper off. So you can see it's not exact, but I didn't want to have to worry about corner squares. So I just use a lot of tricks that I've been using over the years. This one, like for something like this, I would cut this the correct size, these two larger, trim it down, and then trim it down. So I cut a lot of things bigger and trim down. For something like this, I made this bigger, drew my lines the right size, but left more bigger and then trimmed down. It's kind of hard to explain, but I try to teach some of those tips in socialites. But like triangle paper, this is all triangle paper. This is a 2-inch square and a square paper by It's So Emma. And the same thing here, I'll make both of these wider, sew it together, trim it down. Same thing, sew it bigger, trim it down. Sew it bigger, trim it down. But yeah, and I starch everything before I start, and that way I have less frays kind of all over the place. And with the 6-inch blocks, I did press everything open. So yeah, I think that kind of answers that question. Lori says, my blocks are beautiful, so pretty, you've done a beautiful job. Thank you. And then I answered that one. So let's see. So yeah, so there's my blocks. And now I'm going to talk about a little bit more about the fabrics for my final finishing to answer a couple more of your questions. So like I said, I wanted my, and you're going to notice next week when you see my finished quilt, my blocks are going to float. You're going to not even really notice this. And I wanted this to really be backgroundish, so everything kind of floats. This will kind of stick out, but all 3 colors match. And I wanted it to float so my blocks could make the statements rather than my sashing. I don't want your eyes to go to the sashing. So this is all I have left over of these. So I had to buy more of this. And this is what I ended up with. So I'm lucky I'm all done with this. So I didn't have to buy more of that. I decided that I could either use one of these on the binding, either this or this. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this as the binding, but I'm going to wait and see what you guys think, because I could do this one. So one of these two is going to be my binding. I needed more of this fabric for all of this. So I ordered this, and I'm going to have to, first what I need to do is figure out what I'm going to do on this, which is kind of a cool trick, is these are 12.5 inches. No, they're not. They're 13.5. I think they're 13.5. I'll look at my book, but if they're 13.5, I don't cut them 13.5. I cut them 14, sew them together real fast, trim them down. And I sew them wider. So not only I sew everything wider and longer and then trim it down, everything fits perfect. So what I do is I'm going to cut this probably in 14.25 inch strips, figure out how many strips I need, starch those. They'll dry faster that way. So I'll probably get home just in time to get that cut, starched, take Emma to she's doing drill team tryouts, and the tryouts are like, I think they're 5 hours. And she's so nervous, and she'll be fine. But she's a mess. So that is my decision. I'm not sure. And I did think this would be good as a sashing post, but I did use this a little too much in the blocks to put it here. I thought it would kind of fight my blocks. And I always want my blocks to stand out because that's where I put all of my work. And as far as a pantograph, I haven't decided what I'm going to do on a quilt like this. When I send it to Gina, I'm going to let her send me some suggestions. Sometimes I have a specific idea on what I want, but on this, I probably would lean towards a Baptist fan or a Baptist fan variation. And for my backing, I'm going to use this. And the reason why is I love to do, okay, so let's be honest. I love to do pieced backings, but it's the end of the year. I need to get stuff done. Because of my eye surgery, I got so behind because I pretty much couldn't sew for 2 months. I was a hot mess. And that really, really put me back. So on a quilt like this, I bought the 108-inch wide from Stitch. And I think that one matches better, which is why I think I'm going to go with this rather than this, because this looks more brown with this. But what I'm going to do on this is, I could do it on camera if y'all really want, but I'm going to, this is a Sweetwater label. It's got a little sticky back, or I don't know what you call it. If y'all want me today to show you how to do it, I can show you, but I'm gonna basically make a little label, stick it on the back. I'm not doing a piece backing. That is something I love to do, but I have to know my limits, and right now my limits are, I need to get through the year. And then hopefully next year, I won't have any setbacks. But I do plan I plan everything to the details. So when you're out for 2 months, it's kind of a mess. Okay, so I'm gonna move these. If you'll see any mistakes, let me know in the comments. Now, for fabric, how much to buy? I only needed 3/4 of a yard, but I decided to buy a yard so that at least I would have a 1/4 yard left over after Gina quilts it. She sends my leftovers back. For this one, I bought 3 yards. I think I need 2 because I think the pattern calls for like 1 2/3, but since I cut my stuff wider, and then I needed more to be able to starch the way I want to starch and let it dry. And then this, I think I bought 3 yards. But, so there's that, and I'll put these here in case they want to do the video. Oh, and then there's this one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to fix this mistake. And I'm going to answer questions so I've answered the first one. Let's see. I have a question about flying geese. If you need to press the seams open, what system can you use? You can use the Quilt in a Day foundation method or the traditional method. And I use our paper, but you have to do funny stuff to make it work. So, okay, so now I'm going to fix this. So what I'm going to do is, right here is my mistake. So I need to pull this out. I'm going to pull whatever's the easiest. So I'm going to pull this out. So I'll go a little bit past. To pull my stitches, what I do is I go one side and I seam rip every couple of stitches, and I'll show you a little trick. Now, it is hard for me to do this on camera because my stitches are tiny. I use like a 1.5 stitch length. And the reason there's a mistake in this is because I knew I had 8 hours to finish. And I was a hot mess yesterday, but I needed to get it done. And sometimes you just have to like be in a hurry. So I've clipped from like here to here, just every couple stitches. Turn that over. I'm gonna clip here. It probably won't work on camera. Clip here. Then I'm gonna go over here to where, kind of over here. And then I'm gonna try to pull this. I didn't clip enough. So I just pull my stitches out. Let's see. Do you cut for just 1 or 2 blocks at a time or for the entire quilt? For this one, I did, as Susan was doing the sew-alongs, I would do either all of that week's or 2 or 3 at a time. Yesterday, I just did a couple at a time. And I kind of yesterday just picked the final blocks that I wanted that were the ones that I liked the best. And the final blocks she had were like grays, browns, which is fine because I didn't want that many of those in my quilt anyway. So hopefully, so I've got kind of that out. I need to get all these flyaways out. Now, to make it easier, I could unrip all of this, and this would make this so much easier. But I'm going to try to do it by seam. So now I'm going to unstitch this one, and we'll see how. I'm going to try to do it in the least amount of time so that you don't have to sit in and watch me, but I do think you can learn something from this. And then, let's see, this one I'm going to just clip. I'm going to try to clip every 2 stitches. And on this quilt, I did use color 2000. I hardly ever use color 2024, but that is the pure white. So if you ever want a pure white, that's color 2024. Okay, so I kind of did that same thing. Now I'm going to go over here and try to pull one of these. It'll work. It's got to work at some point. It'll just, the other side will just pull out. See? Now you just get all these flyaways off. So now I've got that off. And then I'm just going to go down. Okay, now this one, I don't want to pull here because I press this away. So now I'm going to take these out. But this gets difficult right here because see right here, this is pressed open. So this is going to be where I have the problem sewing it back together. Right here, I can already tell you this is going to be the problem. Because this is, yeah, this is going to be a problem. So I'm going to try to, I'm not even in the right spot. I'm going to try to go just to right here. I'm going to try to go as little as possible and see if I can get this to work. I might have to take more stitches out, but we'll see. So, when will the Jolly Box be mailed? Next week. Next week it will be mailed, and that is sold out. Do you ever use a blade type seam ripper? Actually, the only seam ripper I use is this Clover White seam ripper. It's the only one I use, and I've broken a couple, but they last me like, I don't know, 10 years. And you never want to seam rip this way because you'll put a hole in your fabric. Let's see. And then Kathy says, good morning. I want to say thank you for the wonderful customer service. I received a big shout out to Michelle. She was so awesome helping me pick my fabric. Thank you. We will let her know. So I guess none of you saw mistakes in my blog. So let me know if y'all saw any mistakes. Let's see. Okay. So this one I'm trying to take as little out because, let's see. And this is where it gets tedious because my stitch length is so small. If I used a normal size stitch length, this would go a lot faster. Now there are those little like things, they're like little, I don't know, they're like little razors or so, I don't know exactly, they're like electric seam removers, and I have tried those, but I think my seam is like, my stitch length is a little too small for those, or I'm just a little too nervous to use those. So let's see, almost got it. Okay, let's see. So do y'all have any questions for me on any of the seam ripping? This is tedious. You do want to get all your little flyaways out though. So I'm going to try to go to right here. Let's see. My stitches are just way too small. I think this is even smaller than a 1.5. Here, I'm just going to do a couple this way, because I don't want to go too far into this seam. Okay, now I'm going to take this. This is why I should have paid attention when I was sewing. Now I'm going to take this one out. And then after this, I'm going to get to show you 2 other quilts that I have finished. And then actually after this one is done, I'm finished with everything I had open, except I did find an old Halloween Figs block of the month that was like, I think it's like 2 or 3 years old. So I might finish that one. If not, I might auction it off to half of it's finished, or I might have Teresa finish it for me and pay her, because I won't have time. So we're almost done. Can you go to the other screen so I can see what people are saying? Let's see. Okay. Our silence is because we're intently watching your master in class. Okay, so now this is where it gets kind of crazy. So I've got that out. But I don't want to immediately go back in and do that, because I got all these seams. So the first thing I want to do is get all my little thready threads off. Do the smaller stitches make the blocks more accurate? Yes, and I use a smaller stitch because if you press open, if my stitch was long, you would start seeing this would be open and this would be open. Using those smaller stitches, you're not going to have that come open. And I would never press open with a small stitch. So here I'm going to, and the stitch length I use is like a 1.5. I'm going to get this flat. And you can see that this is not exactly flat right there. I don't know why. But I'm going to get it flat again before I go back. And am I starting any sew-alongs in the new year? Yes, and there's 2 that I'm going to be talking about up next that are going to be free. And I will be doing a video in the new year telling you about it. What makes you decide if you just leave a seam versus rip it? Well, this one I had to rip because it's a totally mistake, but because it goes like this. So now we're going to try to get this back in. And this might go well, it might not. So what I need to do is it needs to go this way. So you're going to see there's going to be a lot of problems getting my foot to not get all messed up there. So what I'm going to do is put this here, and I'm going to try to pin all of this as accurately as I can. And I'm still going to be using that small stitch length. And I'm going to be trying to not get into other seams where I get puckers. This is where you will get a pucker for sure. So we'll see how good I can do this. And let's see. So I've got it in the right spot. Definitely don't want to sew it back wrong. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this side, because that's where all the, if I start over here and go into here, I might get this all jammed up in my machine. So I'm going to put this under my machine, trying to not get this under my foot, because then you'll get a pucker or you'll get an extra seam over there. I've got it on a 1.5. And so, ta-da. So I didn't mess any of this up. So that's good, because usually I do. These scissors right here, they're Sweet Snip scissors. I think they were in a Sew Sampler box. So if you are a Sew Sampler member, you probably already have them. And they're nice and sharp. So right here, see, I'm going to try to do this without burning myself. Okay. So I I don't want that to be open. I want to iron this, but I don't want to get all this in it and all this in it. Like, I want to just get right here, just right here. So I'm just going to use the tip of my iron, and I'm going to try to just get that flat without pressing all this other stuff, because then I'll get creases. Oh, actually, this right here has the, I'm going to sew that next, so I want that to be flat. So I guess I would say I do really try to take my time when I'm fixing a mistake. Like, all of these little fuzzies need to come out before you start, because if not, they might stay in and pop out of your seam. So you can pull them from the back. Okay, so from here, I need to put this together. So definitely have to pin. Wouldn't a handheld sewing machine work well? Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, this is where I'm going to have trouble, because this seam over here is pressed open, and this is pressed open. And so when I start stitching, I might get, if you've ever done this, you'll know what I'm talking about. You might get all kind of messed up. But I'm going to pin at these intersections so my seams match. What about using the glue here? I probably wouldn't use glue here because it's just way too much stuff going on. Shelly says she wants to thank us for Cross Stitch University. I've finally learned to cross stitch. Yay! So when I stitch, I'm going to try not to start over here, because if I start over here, you're going to get into these seams. So that's why I try to pull just a little bit out. I'm going to start here and go to the end. And you're going to see my fingers on my seams a lot more than normal, because I can't really do this without my fingers in the way and get it right. Oof, it matched. Okay. And any loose threads, okay, so we're going to zoom way in. There's a little loose thread right here. See that little bitty thread? So the way you get that out is you pull it from the, oh, there's two. I'm going to pull these stitches from the front to the back. I'm not going to just clip them, because I don't want to accidentally clip my fabric. So what I'm going to do is try to figure out where they come from on the back, and I'm going to use just a pin. And so my thread's coming from right there. And I just pulled it out. And from here, I'll try to find this one. Oh my gosh, there's a couple. Okay, I got that out. And then this one is coming from this side over here. So there it goes. Okay, so now I'm gonna stitch this close and then this close, and it should be pretty easy. But before I do that, I'm going to get this straight, flat, so that I don't have, I'm gonna just iron this flat so that I'm not trying to stitch on a seam that's pressed, because that's gonna give you creases in your, it might give you a pucker, duck pleat, pucker, whatever you wanna call it. And some people sometimes ask me where I came up with that word. I just made it up. So sometimes I just have my own words. So just put, I'm putting a lot of pins in. You just want to make sure you're not like creating a pucker at this point. So that. And it would have been great if I would have caught this mistake before I put on the sashing. Okay, so it looks good. I do have one little piece right here coming through. So I'm gonna try to get that out. So it's right there. Ooh, and you can see my knot's nest. See all that mess right there? So it's somewhere in there. Okay. And now before I sew it, I don't want to leave it like this. I want to press open before I get here. So So I'm gonna try to get all of this pressed without ironing onto this part and messing this part up. Now this presses to one side, this goes towards the sashing, which is fine. But then the other one needs to press open. And sometimes you'll have seams in the way or threads in the way to where you need to clip them before you press open. Okay, now this one I need to fix. Do you clean my machine after each project? No, I clean my machine about once a month, and I use a can of air. Now you're not supposed to, so I'm just going to tell you that. You're not supposed to, but I do it. And I use Q-tips, and I put the Q-tips in. Actually, if we have a Q-tip, we probably don't. Yeah, I don't think we have a Q-tip here, but I'll show you what I do. Okay, so now I just need to sew over this right here. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. Okay, right there, look at that, that's horrible. So let's see, right here, I don't have it enough 1/4 inch, but I'm not going to take all that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from here to here, but I'm going to go a little bit further in. And then I'm going to press that to one side. How often do I oil my machine? Okay, so once a month. Once a month, I clean my machine and oil it. And I actually did it on Saturday. Or, you know, when you start noticing stuff that comes from the, like dust coming from the inside, that's when you should do it. Okay. So let me know if you have any other questions. Let's see. So when I do my machine, what I do is I pull this up and I take a Q-tip and I put it in here and I just wipe around with a Q-tip. Or we do have some brushes you can use. So I either use a brush or Q-tip and I put canned air in here. You're not supposed to, I know, but I do. And then I put my canned air, I put the little red stick in here and it blows the air, blows the dust from here out. You're not supposed to though, so I'm just telling you, you're not supposed to. Okay. Kimberly, do you use any other sewing machines? I have a Juki 2200 Mini and I love it. I only use the Juki 2010Q. I do have a Baby Locks Symphony or Crescendo, one of those, and I haven't used it in a while. Okay, has Kimberly started using the heavy starch yet? No, I'm just sticking with the basic. And what I've been doing is using that starch more heavily. So I drench it a little bit more than I was. Do you ever keep tweezers? No, I don't use tweezers. Now, Tula Pink has some tweezers that sell really good and it has really good reviews, but I haven't tried them. Would you back stitch to secure where it was cut? You could, or double stitch it. And then, so now, that's all my sampler spree. If you'll have any questions, put them in. We're going to take a tiny, tiny break, and so we can clear all the sewing machine and all the stuff off, and we'll be right back. Okay, so you did comment that y'all want to see me put the label on. So what we'll do is I'll do that at the beginning of the live stream next week. And what I'll do is go ahead and cut my backing down to the size that Gina needs it. And then that way you can see kind of where I place it. So we'll do that next week. And now I'm going to show you my dinosaur quilt. Now, I made the dinosaur quilt for my son Peyton. He loves dinosaurs. And I'm going to show you the quilt real quick with him in it. Now he just got out. I finished this on Thanksgiving morning and his hair is wet. So he just like got out of the shower. But this quilt, I'm going to show you how many mistakes it has. So just stay right there. Okay, when you look at this quilt, I don't have any of the blocks in the right spot. So I have, for some reason, when I made the quilt, I thought all the blocks were the same. So I have them all going the same way. I have them all in the wrong spot. And I have all the colors in the wrong spot. So if you see, it's supposed to be more variegated. The blocks are supposed to alternate. And this is what you call Kimberly is out of time and out of energy, and I need to stop. I had no idea. It was all the way sewn together wrong until I had all 6 blocks done. And I just said, you know what? I'm done. And my son liked it. And Kevin, it was Thanksgiving morning, and I was like, come look at this quilt. Well, Kevin's actually holding it. So he's like, I said, I sewed it together all wrong. And he said, well, how? And I said, all the blocks are in the wrong spot, all the colors. And he's like, oh, I didn't notice, it's fine. So my son didn't care. I wish I would have taken more time, but that's another example of I'm out of time. And I was not about to pull any of that apart. Now, I don't have the quilt here to show you because I sent it to Gina. The only thing I did different, first of all, hopefully there's no mistakes in the blocks. The blocks are all out of order. It's a hot mess. It is what it is. I will say I did make the border 2 inches or 1 inch wider. I can't remember which. I just wanted it to be a tiny bit wider. Now the binding, I'm going to use that same Kona fabric. And the backing, I'm using a dark gray C390 Shannon fabric. I don't remember which color, and I don't know on this one what pantograph I'm going to use because Gina will probably send me some suggestions. I'm not really sure. I don't think I want to do a dinosaur on a dinosaur. So I probably would do like hexagons or circles or something. And Peggy's asking how much fabric did I use for my blocks. So this used to be a kit like a year ago. I'm just now finishing it. I had a quilt kit and I did make a mistake in some of the blocks and I did have to buy some more fabric. I will be honest because again, I was trying to rush, and when having those 2 months just really messed me up. I mean, I'm happy it's done, but I'm not happy at how much of a mistake it is, but it still looks good. Basically, what I did is I thought all the blocks were laid the same, and in the pattern, there's like fabric 1s through fabric 6s. So I just kept all my 1s together, my 2s together, my 3s together, but I was supposed to mix and match them and move the block around so you can see. And I think I have a second photo. So that is where I realized that there was a mistake. Because I was like, wait a minute, something's wrong. So that was kind of when I realized, I guess all the block wasn't done, but I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna do what I was doing. And one of my faults when I sew is I don't like to read instructions. I like to just look at diagrams. So that's what you get. You get a quilt that doesn't look anything like this. But the quilt is done. My son doesn't care. I think it's totally fine. But until today, I didn't realize I had the blocks placed wrong. I thought I just had the colors wrong. I have the blocks and the colors wrong. But it's okay. My son, he's fine. He's 12. He doesn't care. He's like, it's fine. I will say that I asked him to rate my quilt. And he said, because he rates everything. That's his thing. We don't know where he got it. He rates the food, the shoes, the clothes, the hair, the everything. And so he said, oh, I give it a 9.1. And I was like, what happened to the 0.9? Why didn't I get a 10? But my other son, well, one of my other sons, when I did the Harry Potter, he said it's epic. So I was like, okay, that's good. So those are 2 of my Christmas gifts. What am I drinking? So this is peppermint hot chocolate. And then I have iced tea over here too. My thing with the iced tea is my ice is all melted. So I will either drink the tea when it's all full of ice or when all the ice is melted and it's not cold anymore. I'm really weird about my tea. I don't know why. Thank you for saying that my quilt looks nice. I feel really embarrassed that it's all a mess. But you can see that when you make a mistake, you just kind of move on. And I want to give a thank you to Cynthia Mitchell for our super chat. She says, thanks for all you do. I've learned so much this past year and I work on quilt projects every day with confidence. I love FQS. Thank you. We love you too. I'm going to show you my next one that I have progress on. Okay, so I'll hold it up in a second. So this is Sherry McConnell's free block of the month. She has it every year. This year, she gave instructions for 6-inch and 12-inch blocks. Last year, I sewed the 6-inch version. This year, I sewed the 12-inch version. And so this was the last block. This quilt was finished 2 days ago. And I'm going to hold it up and show it to you. But first, let's see. Let me find the last block. This is the last block right here. So I'll show you some things that I like about my last block, because I do like to show you block by block, and some things I don't like. So this was my last block. And I don't love this little border thing. I would have normally put this fabric in, but I didn't have enough. And it's the end of the year, and I didn't have time to wait. So I put this in. I hated it, but now I like it. So it's one of those things where I was like, there's no way I'm going to go and buy half a yard just so I can put this in. That's ridiculous. So I did put this one in, and I ended up really liking it. And I was so scared when I sent a photo of it to Lori that she was going to say, that it looks horrible, but she didn't. So thank goodness for that. So on this quilt, the blocks are free. I did the 12-inch version. I sewed with Flea Market Collection by Lori Holt that came out earlier in the year. I just used a fat quarter bundle. And then on this, I used the Spelling Bee setting. That is in here. I don't want to show you the instruction. This is the setting I used. And I did the same thing I kind of did with the other quilt, where I just chopped off a row and a column. The other one, I just chopped off a column. So you just have to know, I guess it's kind of a lesson in limits, like know your limits. And when I lost those 2 months, I lost a ton of stamina, time. I felt rushed to get stuff done. I felt, you know, kind of crazy. You know, and I just had to get stuff done. But I wanted to show you that these just came out. These are called Busy Bee sticky notes, and I'm going to show you what they're made for. Now, to show you, I have to kind of... Okay, this is what they're made for. If you're doing the 6-inch block, you put it on the 12-inch size so you don't accidentally cut the 12-inch size, because who does that? Me. If you're cutting the 6-inch size, you put it on the left inch. And there's 3 colors. There's pink, and they come in as a set of 3. Pink, yellow, and blue. And they're faded, and the reason why is we want you to be able to use them as regular Post-it notes also. And if they're like dark purple, I mean dark pink, dark yellow, you're not going to be able to see your writing. And these have been asked for years. But on a block like this, it's absolutely necessary. So what I would do here, and then you can reuse them. I wouldn't like throw these away. I would just reuse them. I cannot tell you how many times I have cut the wrong size block and then gone to sew it together, and I'm like, oh my goodness, So especially on something this big, it makes it so much easier. So with our first book, people wanted shading within the instructions, so we added that, and then people asked for these, and we finally have them. So I'm so excited. They were also made in America, which is great. So they're sold as a set of 3. They're Lori's too. They go with her books, and they're really cute. It's a Post-it note brand. So this is the quilt. I'm going to hold it up in a second, but I do want to talk about how I really loved when I took a photo of this, how the blocks really stood out. And you're going to see that when I show you. And this is the inspiration that I used for my sashing picks on Sampler Spree. So can I see that one block? So I really just love this print, and this is from the flea market collection, and it just lets your blocks speak. So that's kind of what inspired me to do this, because I originally was thinking of putting a pink around here, and that was because I love pink, and I was gonna maybe use like something from my original thought was to use the bee cross stitch fabric, because those are Lori's fabrics, they match, and there wouldn't be like 2 fabrics wouldn't touch. But then when I finished this the day before, I was like, oh my gosh, I love the background aspect, and that inspired me to do this. So, you know, you can always use, and I was really happy that I got this done right before I did this, because it made the choice here really easy. And another thing you could do is you could put a fabric here to make it darker, like these wouldn't have to be the same. You could change it, you could make it scrappy. I just wanted my blocks to really stand out, and I felt like if I put different colored here, kind of like here, so you can see the difference. These, when you look at this quilt, you're gonna see how these stick out. But on this one, they're not gonna stick out. So it's a similar, and you can see it's kind of a similar setting. I mean, it's not a similar setting, but it's the same concept of a sashing and a block. Okay, for my binding, I picked this because I wanted to tie it to this sashing. My backing I've already shown last week, or not last week, the last time I was with you guys I showed you. This is a pieced block that's inset in here. So this one is actually an extra block that I made up that I sewed into the backing. And I sewed my little label in. Now the other one, I'm not gonna do a piece block. I'm just gonna put the label just right on top of the 108 so I don't have to do a pieced backing. But I'm gonna show you the pieced backing, and then I'm gonna show you the quilt, and then these are gonna go to Gina Tell. And this one's gonna be a Christmas gift. So this is kind of the middle of the backing. And then I'll fold it up again so that it's nice. And then this is the bottom right. And here's the quilt. So this one's going to be a Christmas gift, and I think feathers would look good on this. So let me know what pantograph you think. I think feathers or a Baptist band would also look good. And I mean, easily I could do both the same pantograph. Now the pantograph that I put on the Dinosaur, when I get that back, it will be larger, because on the back I put Shannon fabric, which is that really soft stuff. So she cannot do a tight pantograph like she can on this one and the other one. So yeah, anytime I send my quilts off, it's important that you fold them, you keep them really nice so that when they get your quilt out, they're not like, oh my gosh, I have to iron this whole thing. What is the book? So the pattern is from Sherry McConnell's blog for the 12 blocks. The setting is in the spelling bee book because the spelling bee book has a lot of settings, and it's called the picture day setting. And that's one thing that I encourage you to do as a crafter, whether it's quilting or anything else, is just, you don't have to stick exactly with it. You can change your setting. You can change your fabric. You know, sometimes I've taken 12-inch blocks and converted them to 6-inch. I hardly ever stick exactly to the drill, except for the Dinosaur Quilt. I really meant to stick exactly to that pattern, so I'm super disappointed. It's a Kimberly Jolly adaptation. Don't stress. Oh my gosh. It's gonna drive me crazy for like a year, and then I'll get over it. Anita said she loves my top. Where did I get it? It is Johnny Was, W-A-S, and he has like stores, and you can find him at like Nordstrom. It's super expensive because it's like hand embroidered. So I only have one of his. I've always wanted his, so I kind of only have one. I did see some pajamas that he has, and I was like, oh, I should ask Kevin for them, and then I saw the price tag, and I was like, oh, I should not ask Kevin for those pajamas. He would kill me. Okay, so now we're going to move to the third thing, or that was our third quilt. Now we're going to move to future items that are going to be 2022 items. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Brick House. Brick House is going to be my free pattern to you for 2022. It's going to come out on December 15th on our website. And here is a tease of me starching all my fabrics. So like I've said plenty of times, I sew way in advance. So when I show you stuff in the live stream and I say, oh, I made it this week, a lot of times I made it a lot earlier than that week. But it's our scrap pattern for 2022. I think I said the wrong year, sorry. But these are scraps, and so I starched them. Now when you starch a small piece like this, I starched all of that in between the time I took Christopher to school and when I took my other 3 kids to school. I came home, I starched that, and told the kids exactly what time to be in the car, and that is a tease to my brick house. So it's going to be called Brick House. It's scrappy, and it is a house. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is Joanna Figueroa. So Joanna Figueroa has a Facebook group, and it's called Fig Tree Quilts Friends. And she announced a new free winter-themed quilt along called Winter Walk in the Woods. It's going to start like around January. It's going to be, I think, 5 weeks, and it's going to be a free pattern that's on her group and her blog. And so for that, I want to direct you to join her group, which is Fig Tree Quilts Friends. And in it, she's going to have several kits that she sells. So you can, and she's going to have 2 different colorways, and you can buy her kits, or you just need 2 fabrics. Her quilt, I think she's going to use a lot of different backgrounds, but I decided to just go ahead and buy 2 fabrics. And I have seen the design, or a sneak peek of it. It's really cute. And I decided I'm going to make it with 2 fabrics. So I picked Blossom in Gray. This is the Blossom fabric by Christopher Thompson. And then I picked a Bella Solid 200. And she has not released the fabric requirements yet, I don't think. So I just ordered 6 yards of each. This is way more than I need for the front. But even though it's way more than I need, I can use it for the backing or a binding or whatever. So this is my kind of, and now I think what she's gonna do is a red version and a blue version. And so I just wanted to kind of show that to you. I saw that earlier this week and thought, you know, let me do something of Joanna's and let me just make it totally different. So these are something to look forward to. Now, what I will do with these is I will starch in sections. I'll probably take 3/4 of a yard of each and cut 3/4 of a yard, 3/4 of a yard, 3/4 of a yard, 3/4 of a yard, starch all those pieces, let them dry, and then when she's ready to go, I'll be ready. but these are the fabrics I picked. I would just say, when you pick your fabrics, either buy her kits or pick fabrics where there is a contrast. I originally was going to use kind of a blue colored fabric that we have, but it had too much going on it. So I would just say make sure your fabrics you're using are not too busy. So that's going to be something coming up. Now in 2022, I will do a video that talks about all my plans for 2022. This is only part of them. I just thought I would throw it in here since I picked my fabrics and I found out about it this week. So I thought, oh, I'll just join that. That sounds fun. And now I'm going to show you kind of our items that are on sale this month and then some new items. So our basic of the month is Kimberly Basics. And so I pulled, this collection is a rather large collection. So I just pulled some bundles that we have in stock. But this collection is by Kim Christopherson, and she's with Kimberly Basics. And so that fabric is all 20% off for the month of December 2021. And then at the end of the year, we decided to put Fisker scissors on sale. So we have a ton of Fiskers. Those are all 30% off for the month of December 2021. Me and my sister patterns are 30% off for this month, both paper and PDF. And our book of the month is 30% off, both of these. So just wanted to show that to you. That's something new that we're gonna add. Just so you guys know what we do have that's on sale for that month, because each month we have a fabric of the month, a notion of the month, a book of the month, and a pattern of the month. And then now I'm going to move to the what's new section. So this is my long awaited fabric. This is my favorite fabric. The SKU number is 20708-36. And it is a random white on white that was in a Stacy Itsu collection called On the Farm, and I love it. I think on the website I'm just going to change the name at the end to say Kimberly's favorite white on white in the product so that you guys can find it. You can just search Kimberly's favorite white on white. Now this is the second time we've had it reprinted. So I bought a bolt. I bought another bolt because I was actually out. But I'm not sure after this reprinting if I'm going to reprint it again. So we'll see. But this is in stock now. Hopefully it won't. I bought enough to where I was hoping it would last 6 months. So I'm hoping it doesn't sell out. And then I'll decide then, I guess, if I'm going to reprint it or not. But I just want to let you know it's in stock. I'm taking this home. I can't wait. And then the Dinosaur Quilt kind of inspired me to show you another Elizabeth Hartman item. So this is a brand new Elizabeth Hartman kit that came in yesterday, and when I was looking at it I was like, oh my gosh, if I did this quilt I wouldn't make so many mistakes because there's 9 different animals instead of the same. So that's why I wanted to show it, just because I think that's kind of funny, kind of not. The next quilt I want to show you we cut this week. It's called Snowflake Day, and this is a free pattern. And it uses our square and a square paper, which I used this a lot when I did the sampler spree. I used a lot of this yesterday. So it is written to use the paper, and the kit is available, and in the kit, the paper is included. And here's the quilt. I'll show the back, and then I'll show you the quilting. Okay, so for the quilting, Jocelyn designed this, Teresa made it, and Mike at mylongarm.com quilted it. And he used a gray fabric, and this is kind of a feather. And you can see it better on this side. So the only thing I would say on this one is I think the thread should be, I think the thread's a little dark. So this is from the Urban Farmhouse Gatherings 2 collection. And with this, I would encourage you, it's a free pattern. Look how beautiful this would look if it was all red and white, all blue and white. Do you have leftover red and white scraps from Lori's sew-along she did 2 summers ago? You could use those in this. So always think about, if we give you a free pattern, do you have leftovers? Do you have a lot? It would also look great in the gray and white that I'm about to use in Joanna's thing. So always just think about stepping outside the box. Whenever you see something, whether it's our design or one of the Moda designers or Lori, if you don't like the fabric, you can still make it work. So that's a free pattern. The next one is called Inkwell. Okay, and then I'm going to show it to you on the, oh, and then this is the back. And then I'll show you the quilting. So this one was designed by Angel. Terry sewed it, and Gina quilted it using the Dandelion pantograph. The other quilt I'm going to show. So some people like their thread to blend in. And some people like it to be darker. So either way is fine. Some people like their pantographs to be really small. The pantograph is this digital design on top. So when you send it to your quilter, just be specific. I like my thread to show. I don't like it to show. I want it to be bigger. I want it to be smaller. Don't feel like just because you see it my way, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it however you want. And they both look beautiful. And I would just say there's a lot of things to consider when you send it to your long arm quilter. Now this quilt, this second quilt, this one is called Inkwell. It's a Jolly Bar quilt. So this is a free pattern in the Jolly Bar pattern. That's the only way you can get the pattern right now until we put it in a book. This one is easy. The Snowflake Day, I would say, is intermediate. And now I'm going to answer any questions you have. So throw in any questions you have. Time frame for chicken salad bundles. Okay, so the chicken salad collection from Riley Blake has shipped or is shipping. It takes about 9 days to get to us, and we will cut it and ship it the second it comes out. Is the Snowflake pre-cut friendly? I don't think so. I think it's more yardage. Can I discuss Weeks Dye Works on spools? I'm so curious about it versus the length on the cards. Yeah, I can do that next Wednesday. Except that we're sold out of most of them, so we might have to move that to another like January. But yes, we kind of sold out of a lot of that thread during Black Friday. When I starch my background, do I cut it into fat quarters first? That is a great question. So if it's going to be something that's scrappy, it depends what I'm going to do with it. So all of Lori's fabrics, I usually make each of her collections, I'll make a couple of quilts. So with Lori's collections, I get a half-yard bundle and I starch all of it. It just takes me several days to get it all starched and dried. Now, if I'm just making one quilt with it, I would just starch the fat quarter bundles. A fat quarter bundle, but because of Lori's, I starch all of it and up front. Now, if it's for a quilt, I will just cut it into smaller sections and starch it. Now, if the one thing that I do that is very different is I always cut my borders length of fabric, always. So, I take my pattern, I figure out what I need for my borders, cut that off, and leave it, starch it, so I don't have to piece borders at the end. Someone is suggesting a cable pantograph. That sounds good. And then the 2 quilts, I'll give you the sizes of both. The Snowflake Day that uses the square and square foundation paper is 48 by 57. And the Inkwell Jolly Bar pattern is 56-inch square. Thank you on the super chat. Piggy says, from Laura Davis, Kimberly, you rock. I started watching you when COVID hit. I've learned so much. Thank you. Thank you. And then Vivian Fitzpatrick, thank you so much. That's so generous. I cannot believe you guys this today. Oh, and then Valeria says, I'm so happy to have you back. Thank you. I'm happy to be back. I needed a little energy today, though. This week has been crazy. So Emma is trying out for drill team. For 9 years, she has done competitive dance. And I'm not going to lie. I love it. I'm not going to lie. I love it. She wins everything. She goes to all the competitions. I love it. I think she's leaving that life and going to drill team. Now, I was in drill team, but I don't know that I'm so excited. But I was so proud of myself last night. I was really proud of myself as a mother, because she doesn't watch these videos, so it's fine. She's not going to know, because I'm not cool enough for her to watch. She told me on the way home her plans. And then I'm driving, and she says, why are you looking at me like that? And I'm like, I'm driving. I'm not even looking at you. So when we pulled in the garage, I said, I'm so proud of you for paving your own way and finding what you want to do. I'm so proud of you, and you'll do great. Now, inside, my heart is melting, because there's going to be no more dance competitions starting next year, I guess. Maybe there will be. But inside, I'm secretly crying. I'm so sad, but I'm so proud of her for wanting to be a little bit more social. And one of her friends that lives in the neighborhood is trying out, and she's a great dancer too. So I'm confident they're going to make it. I have no concerns. And that'll be great, because her mom is super fun. She's a little too fun sometimes, but she's super, and she's really good at, like, that'll be good for us because carpooling, it'll be closer. But I don't know. I'm going to have to call Lori and vent. I need some support. I'm just about to, so today was really hard, because I know my life is about to change. I'm not going to get to go on all these, fun little vacation things. It's just going to be hard. Thank you also, super chat, to Mary Bullot. And then Catherine says, thank you for all you do. The growth opportunities are so valuable, and I love this community. Well, thank you. I do try to, when I come, I try to come prepared, and I try to come with some type of teaching element. And I'm super insecure and not really sure what you guys like to see and what you don't like to see. So any comments you can give me after the video is published is great, because it gives me ideas for the future. What kind of stuff do you want to see in 2022 would be great for me to know, because I'm already working on that. And I want to show you some Thanksgiving pictures too. So those are my 4 kids. So on the left is Christopher. He's 11 and he's the youngest. Next is Will. He is my older twin. He was born 1 minute before Peyton, who's on the right. So they're twins. And then Emma is the third. And so Emma's 14, my twins are 12, and Christopher is 11. And they're so big. And then my next photo was really sweet. That was at Thanksgiving dinner, and those are the 2 twins, and they just love each other, and they were just having a sweet moment, and I photoed it and thought, oh my gosh, I should show everybody. So I had a great Thanksgiving. I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving. Ours was really good, because we kind of spread it out. We did part the weekend before and then part Thanksgiving, and so that made it, I think that was a really good mix. My sister-in-law, she came, and she's so funny. She makes that beaded jewelry, with beads and stuff, and she uses all these crazy tools, and I don't know, she makes earrings, she makes all kinds of stuff. And that she got there and she sets up all her stuff, and she was like, I forgot all my tools. She's like, I have to go to Michael's. I was like, okay. So I took her to Michael's the next morning, and then Priscilla I always text Priscilla from Home Goods, the little mugs, because if she wants one and they have one that she doesn't have, I'll buy it. And she was like, boy, you're really out early. I was like, yeah, my sister-in-law, we had to go. Anyway, okay, now I'm going to answer questions. Sorry. I'm so like nervous about tonight and so sad and so like, I know it sounds so weird. It's just like the 9 years. It's like, okay, now she's going to go do drill team and I'm going to have to go to football games. Do y'all know what kind of anxiety that gives me? I have zero interest. I would rather sit through 5 hours of professional dances with people on stage than go to a football game. Football game, it gives me anxiety. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in my car until it's halftime. I'm not going to sit through every high school game. Now, I know my parents did, but they used to go and make fun of me because I was in drill team and we always never knew what offense and defense was. And like the cheer coach had to put a sign and then we would still mess it up. And my dad used to make fun of me. Anyway, okay. Heidi, do your long armors do quilts for customers? Yes. So Mike can be contacted at mylongarm.com. And I know that he ships to and from. And then Gina Tell is at thread-graffiti.com. And she also does the same thing. And then we have also used this year Maggie Honeyman. She's in Dallas. I don't think she has a website, but she does ship. We've used Natalia Bonner. She has an online YouTube and a website, and she does that. And then we've tried some new long armors that we're going to be introducing you to in 2022 because we currently sent some out so that we have more options for you guys. So yeah, all of those people do a great job. When will Love Note be available? I don't know on that one. I don't think it's shipped yet. Katie says my kids are so precious and growing up so fast. Oh my gosh, I know. Like, I don't even know. Like, I told Emma, this is so pathetic, but I don't have like a bunch of friends to hang out with. Like, my kids are my life. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I go to college. She's like, you're going to go to basketball games and you're going to hate it. I was like, I know, because I love going to dance. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, she never wanted to do drill team. This is all very new. And I think she just like she didn't want to tell me because she knew I was going to be upset, but I had to pretend. I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. And so this morning I took her and her friend to school and they were talking about it. And I was like, girls, don't think about it all day. Don't worry. Y'all are both great dancers. Now I wouldn't have said it if I didn't think they were both going to make it because I wouldn't want to like set a girl up for success. But I mean, they're both like very great dancers. And it's funny because I talked about the feedback they got and they both got the same one. And I was like, oh my gosh, so funny because they're both like, they do the same thing. Do I have any cross stitch for beginners? Yes, we have Cross Stitch University and that is a free pattern. And we have a Fat Quarter Shop Floss Tube channel that you can subscribe to and we have free videos to go with that. So that would be great. What new shows are you watching? Oh, I'm struggling, guys. Y'all need to comment below and tell me some things. I've been watching crime. Hold on. Gosh, nobody in here knows my stuff I watch. It's on Oxygen. Cold Justice. Okay, so I've been watching Cold Justice. There were a bunch of new episodes that started last month. I've watched all of those. Cold-Blooded Alaska on Hulu was great. I've been watching Pretty Lies and Alibis on YouTube. I've been watching Crime Talk on YouTube. I've been watching a lot of the hearings. There's a lot of trials going on. So all the Josh Duggar, all the stuff. I've been watching all of the stuff that you can. A lot of that stuff is closed, but you can hear updates. So I've been watching a lot of YouTube, but there's really not a lot of stuff out right now that is interesting. So I'm a little bit struggling. And I did have to sit in the car because I was not about to drive her. I had to drive her to drill team all week because her drill team tryouts were the same time as my boys, twins that get picked up at the same time. So I took her each day and I was not going to drive 30 minutes home and 30 minutes back and have 30 minutes at home. So I didn't have anything to watch. How do I know how many yards are on a bolt of cream spots and dots? The cream spots and dots that I just showed you, 20708-36, 15 yards. Oh, Simply Third, thank you. Grandma Funk. Oh, I know what I would like to see in 2022. Okay, how about a new tutorial for brand new quilters? I know you did one before, but I would love to see a new one and some new fabric. Oh my gosh, I went easy stuff. That's hard. We do have something planned for 2023 though. They're kind of doing those beginner series kind of a lot, and so I have to spread them out. Where dragonflies follow. Would Sampler Spree book be okay for someone who has only done a few quilts? I was thinking that it would teach blocks to a beginner who hasn't done many. I would say the Sampler Spree block is advanced because it only gives you cutting. It doesn't give you any piecing instructions. So I would say wait till you've got more experience. And Lori Holt's books that are the like the Farm Girl Vintage, Farm Girl Vintage 2, that all that would probably be better because it has more instructions. So there is no need to iron fabric that's been starched and dried, correct? Oh, I actually iron it. So after it's crisp, I iron it. So I do iron it, and I do use steam. Any updates on Designer Mystery 2022? Yes, it is being sewn. I can give you a peek. I can tell you the designer that we're using for Designer Mystery 2022 is Camille. I don't know if you saw the announcement, but Bonnie and Camille are a mother and daughter duo, and Bonnie retired, so this is going to be Camille's first collection. And I can tell you that it's blue and green, and it's being worked on right now. And it will release to where you can order it in January. Mary Ann, how about giving pattern suggestions for new lines of fabrics? That's a great idea. We'll write that down. Did you say several weeks ago that there would be a chicken salad piece quilt that you would be working on? Yes. So I'm going to talk more about that in January. Is Seashore Drive on time? I have no idea, but probably not. Nothing's on time anymore. 2022 baking with Kimberly? Okay, that would be hilarious because I haven't used my oven like ever. I don't know how to bake. I love your dinosaur quilt. Mine is on the shelf, not touched. It terrorizes me. Well, I hope when you do it, you actually read the instructions because I obviously don't know how to read. What about an Elizabeth Hartman design? When will the... so we order all of Elizabeth Hartman's books, patterns, and her kits. When will the next Jolly Bar book come out? Probably 2023. So by row updates. It hasn't arrived yet. So the delay on that is we had Lori pick the fabrics, and she put some of the 108s on the front of the quilt because that's what she intended for them. But those have a delay because they come from Pakistan, and that whole factory, there's issues. So the reason it's not here is the fabric doesn't exist. It's not in America, but we're gonna spread it out for you when it does come, so you don't get all of them at one time. We spread them out about 3 weeks apart. We're just waiting for the 108s to arrive. How much fabric did I use for the Sampler Spree quilt? So I started with a fat quarter bundle of the Stitch collection by Lori Holt. I probably used 5 yards of the bee background, and I bought 3 yards of the sashing. And I bought 1 yard of the binding. I only need 3/4 of a yard, but I bought a yard. And then for the backing, I bought 3 yards of 108-inch wide. Can I talk about the Heartfelt Charity Quilt behind me? Yes. So the Heartfelt Charity Quilt is going to start in February 2022. We're currently raising money for Make-A-Wish, and we will have on the live stream 1 live tutorial a month for 4 to 5, I think 5 months. And I'm going to show you how to cut your fabric, how to piece one of the blocks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It was designed by Corey Yoder. The fabric collection is Beautiful Day, and it is all pieced. It's going to be beautiful. There's also a cross stitch that goes with it. And next Monday I'm going to get to go. There's a girl that's been waiting on a wish for like 3 years, and she's finally able to go, and she's going to have a kickoff party. So and she actually sews. She actually sews quilts and raises money for Make-A-Wish herself. So I'm actually going to go. I'm going to take her some fabric, and you'll get to see pictures. She's going to Hawaii. And that's exciting to see another wish get granted. Ilsa says, I would love to see more fabric pick tutorials Also embellishments for quilting like rick racks and a border tutorial. That's a great idea. Those are great ideas. When will Lori's zippers be in stock? March. Getting my first clapper delivered today. Thank you for your excellent customer service. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who ordered on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So guys, I think that's about all my questions. I want to thank you to all my new members. Karen Wilberscheid, Apun Unji, Amy Riddle, Denise R., and Roxanne Pacello. So thank you for becoming a new member. And we'll talk more about member benefits on a future one. Make sure you follow us, like us, and subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Our tag is Fat Quarter Shop, and have a great weekend. Bye.